Hey guys, this is Robert the Texan. You can call me Robert. And I've got a couple things on my mind that I want to share with you guys, specifically about Iceaggaden, Snowaggaden, freeze your balls off Agaden, what everybody else calls the polar vortex. I kind of call it the polar vortex optics, because I just got to do that. Um, and I know that probably all the other video guys and vloggers, bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers, boobtubers, they've all moved on from it, right? Because that's old news. Um, but I'll tell you what, if you go to the grocery store or you're waiting to get something in the mail, you're still seeing the effects of that. So I think it's worth hearing. I hope it's worth hearing what I got to say, because if it's not, then I just wasted your time and my time. But before I want to get to that, I kind of dig it when guys, when I'm watching a YouTube video and someone says, this today's podcast or today's YouTube is sponsored by yada, 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 yada. I'm thinking, them dudes are dropping some coin in your pocket. You go. Well, I got kind of something like that, but this individual, doesn't know I'm going to speak anything about his company. He would never ask me to do that anyway, but I'm going to. So I'm going to try to make this fast. My wife is from Brazil, and in Brazil, coffee is as much of a religion as soccer is, right? It is. Coffee, that's their thing, right? And so since we've been married, every time we go to Brazil and come back, I feel like I am like smuggling in like a suitcase or two full of coffee. Tres Coração, which is Three Hearts coffee, which was my wife's go-to coffee all of her life. Then I ran into believe it or not, there's another Special Forces, not veteran. He is still in the reserves. He's buying and roasting coffee. His name's Alex. He's an 18 Delta. He's in 19th group. He lives up in Washington. That's home of Tactical Taylor, if you didn't know that. And he makes an awesome coffee. Let me tell you about the coffee, then I'll tell you what I think the strongest selling point of any coffee I've ever heard. So Alex does he does a coffee where he gives 50% of the proceeds to an orphanage. He also does Gold Star blends, these Gold Star memorials, which is what I got in my hand. This happens to be my wife's favorite. It's in honor of Sergeant First Class Matthew McClintock, called Tatanka Brew. And what he does is, when typically an SOF soldier, lays down his life for his brothers and for his country, Alex will get with his team, his A team, or if he's a SEAL, he'll get with the SEAL team. He'll get with that individual, that warrior's family, with their friends, and just talk to them, figure out what kind of coffee they liked, how they lived their life when they weren't deployed out, being the tip of the spear. And he goes back and he brews, or roast, rather, not brews. He blends and roasts a one-of-a-kind coffee to honor that SOF warrior. And so Sergeant First Class Matthew McClintock is there holding his little baby. That's Declan. And on the back, he gives you just a synopsis of the conditions that warrior went down fighting, laying down his life for his brothers. And usually he'll include some things from the family, some comments or whatever from the family. So you kind of get a sense for, you can't know this warrior from reading this, brothers and sisters. But you just get a sense of what he believed in, what he valued. And So yeah, so my wife, my Brazilian wife, was in Brazil for a year. My son was down there staying with family. My son was learning, a little bit about that side of his culture, how to speak Portuguese. Ele fala português também. And about 6 months or whatever had gone by, and I got some leave, some vacation time to go down south. And my wife, when I asked her, "Babe, is there anything you want me to bring besides myself?" She's like, "Bring me my coffee. I miss my coffee." And I think I was just like silent on the phone, because I'm like, wait, whoa. I was like short circuiting, like, does not compute, because she's in the land of coffee where we filled up suitcases full and brought back to the States. Now she's asking me to bring coffee back to her coffee. If that's not the compliment that of all compliments, then you probably shouldn't be drinking coffee. Anyway, Alex didn't ask me to do that. He has no idea I did it. He won't even know I did. He's not going to watch this video, I'm sure. I mean, unless I say, "Hey, I did a video for you," and I'm not going to do that. But check out the website, www.Espresso Liber. It's a play off of D Oppresso Liber, the to free the oppressed motto. And check out their coffee. And you're supporting a veteran. I'm just a huge believer in supporting veteran-owned businesses, just to gird them up, to help them, in the civilian world, provide for their family. I'm all about that. Being a veteran myself, I'm all about it. All right. Oh, this happens to be one of the shirts I got from back in the day. Freedom doesn't brew itself. That's pretty awesome. On topic. So, back to this winter storm we had in Texas. There were a lot of things going on, and I hope that if you're in Texas, you've had some discussion with your family, with your friends, with your group. If you got other preparation or prepper buddies, you've had some conversation with them about where did we succeed, where did we fail, where do we have a single point of failure at, where were we at risk, kind of tying to the single point of failure, but where were we at risk of failing, right? In that whole scenario that went from just being super cold and inconvenienced by the roads, by stores being closed down, whatever, to not having power, not having water, right? And no stores open, or if they were open, shelves were empty. And that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. But hopefully you guys are getting together and going through some lessons learned, and don't just focus on the thing that failed, but also address the thing that was a measure away of failing. I'm talking about single points of failure, right? So be sure you kind of pay some diligent time to those subjects as well, right? So what I want to talk about is really from when the weather went south. Initially, it was pretty amazing, because you know how it snows in Texas. It snows either through the night, early morning. About 2 or 3 o'clock the next day, it's warm, it's melted, it's gone. This was the first time that when the snow fell, it could stick, because we'd already had weather in the 20s, 3 or 4 days ahead of that time leading up. So I knew this was going to be different based on, that was one factor that led me to that conclusion, because I just don't always buy lock, stock, and barrel what the weatherman says, especially in Texas. So I knew that was a differentiating factor between other winter storms that we had had. And so initially, when I went out driving, through my truck in Fort High, started getting out onto the roads, going into stores, because it hit me early that this was going to be a great opportunity for me to kind of see how the supply chain was going to function through this deal, because I did believe it was going to be an extended period of time. And, when I saw or understood that we're going to have an ice storm, at least in my area here in Central Texas, that followed the snowstorm, and the snowstorm wasn't going away, but that snow was still packed down onto the roads. Some sand in areas, sand on bridges, sand in main roads, whatever, but it still was getting packed down. I knew that we were going to be in for a shit show. I did. Because I've deployed, I've been stationed overseas. I deployed overseas into some really cold areas and got a little bit of experience in those really harsh conditions. But I would go out every day, and I will tell you, just really to observe, kind of the decline of the supply chain system, right? I'm not a loggy guy. I'm not a logistics guy. I do some consulting on that side now. That's not what I did in the Army. But it is of interest to me because it impacts people in such a dramatic way, right? So if you went to a grocery store or to a convenience store, you saw how quickly those shelves emptied, and you also saw there was nothing being replaced. And you may say, well, duh, Robert, that's obvious because trucks weren't driving. Trucks couldn't get on the road after the ice hit, like for us around Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday, maybe some trucks started getting on the road. But think about, why would, 2 days of going without deliveries for H-E-B, Walmart, Brookshire Brothers, Costco, whatever, Giant, whatever, why would that have such a dramatic effect on what's on the shelf? The reason that it has such a dramatic effect is called JIT, J-I-T. That's an acronym for just-in-time inventory. And it is a practice. It's a practice that stores, from grocery stores to Best Buy, whatever, doesn't matter. It's a practice that retailers follow, because what it allows them to do is to minimize the cost of goods that they're responsible for within their store. So, back years and years and years ago, stores had a sizable backstock area. So they could hold plenty of inventory back there to bring that inventory to the store shelf as stuff was being consumed, as it was being bought. Some super smart guys got together and said, hey, retailers, you don't need to be responsible financially for all that inventory that's just sitting there, when you can follow this methodology, this practice called just in time, and know that, hey, trucks and more vehicles are on the road. A lot of even technology gains with GPSs on vehicles, more efficiency in vehicles, etc. You're going to have a truck at your dock every day. Every day you'll have a truck. There's no need for you to have backstock. Now, do they have? Yeah, they've got some backstock, but understand, so your grocery store can typically has about 3, maybe 4 days of food, and that's commonly consumed groceries. Let's just keep it to groceries. However, there was another factor that came into play, and that is my beloved Texans. I'm born and raised here until I left in the Army. My fellow Texans, you guys, maybe not people listen to this, but people that do this, knee-jerk every freaking disaster that comes our way. It doesn't even need to be a disaster before Texans knee-jerk. All it needs to be is KCNTV or KTWX or whatever your television station is to say, hurricane's coming, going to hit Houston. We're expecting heavy rains, hurricane force winds in Temple, Texas, Waco, Texas, Dallas, Texas, blah, blah, blah. San Marcos, Texas. And all of a sudden, there's no batteries, there's no water, food's going off the shelves, there's no gas, propane. It's gone. Because so many people live in a state of unpreparedness. We know this. We don't need to know people and know what's in their pantry to know that's a true statement. Just see any emergency or even the word of any emergency that's inbound to Texas and watch the store shelves empty. Why did we have the big Tango Papa toilet paper disaster of 2020 during COVID? What initiated that? Well, for us, what I observed, it just wasn't toilet paper. There was no bread. There was no dairy. There was a huge impact on many areas, but for some reason, people got completely retarded on toilet paper. And the moment that wind came out, boom, everybody's going to the Heb, everybody's going to Walmart, everybody's going to Big Giant, everybody's going to Brookshire Brothers, and they're buying whatever they heard either on social media or whatever that's running out. And so panic begets panic. That's how it is, and I honestly, I don't see that changing. So how does that impact those of us that are prepared? Well, I mean, technically it doesn't. I didn't need to go to the store any day. Didn't need to buy water, didn't need to buy gas. Although I did go looking for gas, it wasn't for me. It was for some friends that had no power, that had no way to cook, heat their home, that I was trying to set up after I ran out of my spare tanks and after I ran out of all my spare bottles. I'm trying to get stuff refilled for them or exchanged. There was no gas anywhere in this area, right? So truth be told, it really doesn't affect us in the sense that we're out of stuff. But here we are, it's Friday. Trucks were rolling last Friday, yet, mail, UPS, USPS, FedEx, I know, are all delayed because I'm experiencing delayed on packages that I should have today and I don't. Went to the store again on Wednesday and there was no bread. Dropped in again Thursday. There was no bottled water other than little 23-ounce Chuck Norris bottles, right? That's all they had. And this is at an HEB, at a sizable HEB, right? Here's the deal for me. When an emergency does hit, or something like, Iceaggaden, Snowaggaden 2021 hits, I'm not going to delve straight into my emergency stock. That's not happening, no. Because I should have food and water in my pantry that I'm eating on a daily basis, that my wife's going, pulling stuff out of the deep freeze, whatever, cooking like normal, right? And thankfully, this happened in the wintertime. So people could get stuff. Some of my friends were asking me, my food's going to go bad. No, throw your frozen stuff in your laundry basket because you're not doing laundry because you got no power. Go set it outside in the shade. Put it in a place where the sun don't shine. I even said that. Yeah, I felt that way about some of those guys. Let me tell you something. Anyway, but get it in the shade where the sun is not going to potentially influence on anything surface-wise, right? But leave it out there. It's not getting above 22 degrees. Your food's going to be fine unless it's in direct contact with the sun. And that can cause things to start to defrost, to melt, right? So, we're not knee-jerk into this, but we're still affected by this supply chain situation called just-in-time, JIT, just-in-time inventory. I just kind of want to bring this to you. So I want you to understand, why things are the way they are. Because these grocery stores depend on trucks to show up every day. Look at your local Walmart. Look at your local HEB. Even, I would say, even your dollar store to a degree. If there's not a truck there at some point during the day, one or more, and if not every day, every second day, a 53-footer ready to unload whatever they need, dry goods, dairy, whatever the case is. A couple interesting observations I made was when I did go into the store prior to power coming on, freezers for stores that had power, the freezers had plenty of food. No one was buying frozen goods. Probably because they couldn't cook it because they had no power. Thursday hit, right? Nothing's been replenished, so there's no fresh produce. There's no bread. There's no dairy. There's no butter. There's no milk. Nothing like that. Orange juice. Anything that you can shelves are empty. 5 stores a day I checked. Shelves are empty. Freezers are full. Thursday, sorry about that. Carts loaded with freezer goods. When you see somebody with like 5 boxes of White Castle frozen hamburgers, them's desperate times, folks. Because if you've never been up around the Ohio, Indiana, I was in Indiana, doing some consulting up there. They had a White Castle, and it was a favorite place to hit 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after you've been tipping a few. That didn't make them taste any better. They still taste like an ass sandwich. Anyway, so when you see a cart rather, full of White Castle, frozen burgers, whatever, people are now in that phase where they got nothing else. But they got power, so they're going to microwave, they're going to use whatever they're going to use to cook those frozen goods. So there's just a trend. You can just see the trend from day to day to day, how it happens. And so I just kind of want to throw some information your way so that you can understand what's going on, why the store shelves are empty, with some knowledge that's just beyond, well, the trucks can't get on the road. Last thing I want to leave you with is I think that we should also take this scenario of no power, no water, supply chain impacted. Take that like a template, if you will, and just overlay it in the July, August, September timeframe of Texas. What would have been your reaction? Say we're in August or September, hotter than 10 hells months, right? And we lose power and we lose water. So having a case or 2 water, in the pantry, or 3 or 4, may not be enough, right? And it would it would impact me and my ability to give. I didn't lose power. We didn't lose water. So I loaded up what I consider to be, some of my excess. Not really all excess, but what I could share. I loaded it up, hit the road, pulled people out of ditches, push ladies up the road, a couple guys even, and dropped off my propane, my heaters, my camp stoves, my lanterns to folks that needed it. That was easy because I had heat. I had water. But how's that going to shake out if I don't, or if you don't have those things? So we need to really think through, our ability to help our neighborhood. And that's why it is so important to put into place programs that teach your neighbors, that teach your community to fish, rather than being that guy that's going to give them a fish. I was giving out fish during Iceaggaden, Snowaggaden 2021. Sure, I used that opportunity to discuss why preps are important. why it's not a whack job thing like that stupid ass show that was on TV. It's not that. It's about being prepared for contingencies that we cannot see coming or don't know are coming, and those that we even expect to come. But it's about being prepared, right? And I know I got through some people. I had guys sending me screenshots of these long Amazon lists that had, all these cold weather things in it that I thought to myself, we're probably going to be sliding right into time to turn the AC on weather. So you might want to take what we just went through minus the cold and drop it into a harsh, record-breaking, drought-extended summertime. And examine your preparations. Examine areas where you lack redundancy, where you have that single point of failure, where if this fails, you got nothing to come in behind it. Power may be one of those. Your water situation may be one of those. Your heating, your ability to cook. Oh, power goes out, it's great, I got a grill. If that's the only thing you have, you need to come up with plan 2, because what do you do if you run out of power? What do you do if your freaking grill breaks? Burners go out. Single points of failure will nail you in the ass just like not having it in the first place will. So take these things that we saw happen, and absent of the cold, obviously, drop them into a harsh summertime here in Texas, and examine your preps. I hope this has been beneficial to you. I hope you've learned at least 2 things. One, what amazing coffee is, courtesy of my buddy Alex at Espresso Liber. And 2, what JIT or just-in-time inventory is and the implications it has. We're in week 2. We're still seeing the effects of just-in-time inventory in the grocery store today. Saw it today with my own eyes. All right, so chew on it, noodle on it. Let me know what you think. I probably didn't say that. This is my very first video, so it's probably long. God, man, this thing's longer than 2. It's long. So I'm going to learn how to try to be more concise. Maybe break them up into shorter videos or something. So forgive me, pardon me, excuse me. This is my first one. Hopefully I didn't say or I didn't pick my nose or anything like that. I love you guys. I do. I appreciate you, especially my guys, Central Texas. Love you guys. Y'all take care of yourself. Be wise. Think downstream effects when you're thinking of your preps. Think of not just how to deal with this moment, but what happens downstream, second, third order of effects, those kind of things. That's also downstream thinking. All right. Appreciate you. Unless this totally sucks, I might do it again. I got some other things I want to talk about. I got my little ham shack right there. I've been wanting to do something on plate carriers and chest rigs. Kind of the thought process in putting those together, so you're just not buying some crap you saw some dude on Instagram post up that you thought looked very cool. That's a dumbass idea, son. Let me just tell you that right now. Flexible, adaptable, functional are the key words and the underlying design idea and thoughts behind putting a chest rig together, a plate carrier together. All right. That could be our next thing, or it may not be. Who knows? Because this is my first one. I'm excited. Appreciate you. Ghost96, Robert the Texan, or Robert. Peace out. Love, peace, and hair grease.